Call the meeting of the Ways and Means Committee together today, Tuesday, July the 5th, 2016. And Deanne, would you please call the roll?
That's all right.
Here.
Tilly?
Here.
Duranson?
Here.
Duget?
Here.
Garrett?
Here.
Lutz?
Here.
Krieger?
Yes.
Thank you, Deanne. We've all had an opportunity to read the minutes of June the 7th.
Motion approved. Support.
Any questions or discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. At this time, if anybody would like to address the Ways and Means Committee, please step to the podium. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, under our next order of business, under petitions and communications, we have from the prosecutor, this is 2017 through 2021 Title 4D Cooperative Reimbursement Program grant application.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From the Health Director, we have some bids for electronic medical records software.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Commissioner Begic.
Yeah, just- I know that there's a lot of changes, and there's money out there on the table for people to collect if they have the right software for it. So I can see where we probably need an upgrade on our software so we can get our funds from the federal government.
That is correct.
Documentation's important nowadays.
As we've evolved with services over the last 3 years, and as software companies kind of come and go, and they wax and wane, we find that our current software system has a variety of limitations, and I think it's prudent right now that we go and take a look, especially with some of the resources that we're bringing to the table for other electronic health software.
Meaningful use, I know, is a big part of it, where you have to document doing things for the federal government so you get your reimbursement from them.
That's correct, yes. It's a universal standard, not only for private medical providers, but local health departments as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joel, I got a question.
Sure.
When you go out for a bid, do you look at the costs associated with the annual maintenance fee? Because it seems as though the last few bids that have gone out here is because the cost of the maintenance fee, the second, third, fourth, fifth year escalates. Do you look at that, or do you require that in the bids, that they let us know how much their annual software?
That is absolutely going to be a requirement in the bid, so that we can understand more fully what the annual maintenance fees are currently, what they've been in the last 10 years, and what they're projected to be in the next 5 to 10 years as well.
Well, we should nail them down on more than a projection is, but what they're going to charge us,
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, I think it was in the last RFP that we did, and the cost associated with the annual maintenance fee doubled or tripled, but that's kind of misleading too, because maybe it was $100. I know, I'm using that as an example.
I can assure you it was more than $100.
I'm sure it is too. I'm just using it as an example, but when you say the cost doubled and tripled, we don't even know what the initial cost was, so it's nice.
For the maintenance fee, I can tell you what the initial maintenance fee was.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, I would like that when you say the reason we have to do it is because the cost of the maintenance fee doubled and tripled. Give us a dollar amount so we can see that.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, I think the way the money's coming in and what you need to do, I think it's a good thing. But I guess I would look at the maintenance fee and see if you could nail that down and not allow that to be just a figure that they can every year that they can dictate what they're going to charge us, right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? No other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Under C, from the Director of Environmental Affairs and Community Development, this is a grant acceptance. This has to do with the partnership with Saginaw Bay Watershed.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Krieger, I think Bill Rice here. Bill, do you want to step to the podium?
Actually, if I could have Laura come up, maybe we
okay.
could
Well, you're
have Laura
next.
do the introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to introduce Bill Wright as the chair of the Partnership for the Saginaw Bay, but just very briefly, some historical perspective about the Partnership for the Saginaw Bay watershed. These were required by EPA for these areas of concern around the Great Lakes, these areas that had greater environmental contamination than other places were designated areas of concern, and the Saginaw Bay and the Saginaw River is one of these areas of concern. So in the 1980s, this partnership was formed, and it is a designated public advisory council for this area of concern for the Saginaw Bay. These are important because it gives the public an opportunity to weigh in and gives on their value of this resource, and they help participate and establish locally derived restoration criteria, which means in some places, such as Muskegon Lake, they may have certain criteria for some of their phosphorus levels, but here we may have set different levels, in particular because of the muck that we've experienced in the Saginaw Bay over the years. But with that, I will say that this grant is pretty straightforward. It is passed through from the EPA to the state of Michigan through the Office of the Great Lakes. It is passed on then to these public advisory councils based on a work plan that is approved. This particular work plan is attached, and it was approved by the Office of the Great Lakes. And this partnership was part of the reason Tom Hickner created the Department of Environmental Affairs and Community Development about 20 years ago. And so my department, my position was an outgrowth of this whole effort for cleaning up these areas of concern. This grant, we did offer a $10,000 match. The partnership has, because of the enormity of the hours of volunteer time that is spent by the board members. I know Commissioners Duranchik, Krieger have shown up attended some of the meetings. I know you have as well, Chairman Coonan. And so there's a lot of local time that is spent on these issues, and so we wanted that recognized. It was not required. We wanted it recognized, and so that's why it is shown there and reflected. So with that, I would like to introduce Bill Wright, who is the chairman of the Partnership for Saginaw Bay.
I can answer any questions, or try to answer any questions you might have regarding the work that we're going to do here. To summarize real quickly, the two main objectives of this grant are, one, to keep the partnership functioning as a line of communication between the state and the EPA on one hand, and the citizens of the Saginaw Bay watershed on the other hand. And then also we will have a special focus this year working on what is known in AOC speak as the beach closings beneficial use impairment. I think everybody here knows how beach closings affect our activities here in Bay County and in other communities around the Bay. There's been a lot of work, a lot of research, and also a lot of investment that's been made to try to mitigate or minimize the sources of pollution that have resulted in beach closings, as well as the sources of pollution that have resulted in muck. And there's still a lot of discussion in the scientific community of how muck and bacteria interact with each other. We want to encourage more research in that direction, but we also want to encourage action to prevent them both. And along that line, I do want to mention, I grew up here in Bay City. I still live in Bay County. I went out to State Park. I have been there several times this year, but took my brother-in-law, who grew up here and lives in Minnesota now, out there. He'd heard all kinds of things about muck. You know what? The beach looked great this weekend. It wasn't perfect. There was a little stuff in the water, but it didn't seem to be stopping anybody. There were hundreds of people on the beach. There were hundreds of boats out along the first sandbar along the beach. That's an amazing phenomenon. My brother-in-law just kept taking pictures of, I gotta show these guys back home. It was really cool. And I want to thank everybody in this room for the role that Bay County has played in making the progress that has produced this result. Banning phosphorus, taking the leadership role in that. You banned phosphorus before the state saw the wisdom in it. They now have followed along. All of the work that you have done with the beach wellness activity, with doing things like cleaning up failing septic systems in our watersheds, just tremendous work, and it's paying off. We're seeing the results, and on behalf of the people of the Saginaw Bay watershed, thank you. Anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to take a shot at them.
Well, thanks, Bill. Thank you very much for
Thank you, Kim.
your insight. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and thank you, Laura.
Laura, you all set?
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, with, there's no other discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From the Director of the Division on Aging, this is a Title V work site agreement.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From the Personnel Director, we have the 457 Deferred Compensation Fiduciary Liability Policy Renewal.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Number 2, we have some tuition reimbursements. This is to receive Andrew Cohen, Manager of the Civic Arena, and Brittany Reed, Administrative Assistant, Probate Court.
Motion received.
Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have, under number 3, this is a letter of understanding between BCAP seeking an approval for a LOU regarding the non-standard work week. Letter of understanding.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From, this is another letter of understanding for 911 dispatchers.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We have some payables from the General, Center Ridge Arms.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From the Finance Officer, we have some budget adjustments.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Commissioner Krieger.
Just one question, Kristen. Where are we at with the equipment that we had problems with at the golf course, the tractor?
We're all set. Everything was ordered and ready to go.
Super. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Commissioner Krieger. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Number 2 is to be the analysis of the general fund for 2016.
Motion received. Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We have an update regarding the Executive Directive 2007-11.
Motion received. Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And number 4, we have the 2015 Bay County audit presentation will be done next Tuesday, I believe. And then we have under H, the Lake Shore Legal Aid funding requests for Region 7.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Any referrals? Unfinished business? New business? We don't have a closed session.
We do not.
Miscellaneous? Commissioner Begic.
The Auburn Corn Fest will be this weekend, starting on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, parade Sunday at 1 o'clock. We're gonna have mud bog racing side by side this year, so we're expecting a big crowd. It'll be loud.
Sounds good. Anybody else? Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah, just to follow up on the DEQ that came in to discuss some of the concerns we had at Bayside Park in Bangor Township. There'll be a meeting next Wednesday, the 13th, at 6 o'clock at the Township Hall. So those that are interested in getting some more questions answered or an update on where we're at with the spoils, that'd be a great time to come. So 6 o'clock next Wednesday, Bangor Township Hall.
Sounds good. Anybody else? Announcements? Motion?
Motion to adjourn is always in order, Mr. Chair.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?